Welcome to the Box Score Sports Podcast.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Box Score Sports YouTube channel. I'm your host, Ryan. On this clip, me and Clint are going to talk about his Milwaukee Bucks. We're going to do the NBA exit interview for the Bucks. We're going to talk about the season that was. Then we're going to give them talk about offseason and give them a long shot going into the season. But let's first start with the offseason. And before we get into it, let us know down in the comments down below what you think of the Milwaukee Bucks season, what they should do this offseason, and give them a grade. So let's do that, Clint. Let's give them a grade. The Bucks finished 48-34. They were eliminated in the first round by the Pacers. It looked bad at the time, but now not so bad, right? My grade changed from when I made the notes for this to now because of that very factor. Give me your grade for the Bucks.
I went with a C minus.
Okay.
Close to a D plus. Just, I put a lot of it on the coaching for the year. Like, again, Doc Rivers is fine. And when you listen to him, like he was just on the Bill Simmons podcast, when you listen to him talk, you're like, okay, dude knows basketball. But apparently he forgets a lot of it when he steps onto the court. But I just didn't like the rotations. I felt like they had a lot of lazy effort games where they're not getting loose balls. And then, the Dame Giannis pick and roll game has never really clicked. I think I brought it up in a different episode. Like even off ball screens for Dame, the Bucks were setting like 4 or 5, and when he was in Portland, it was between like 14 and 17. So you're just lacking creativity. On the plus side, Giannis is amazing. You don't see much of a tail off in his game. His mid range game. Yeah, Gary Trent had a good year. AJ Green had a good year. Kevin Porter Jr., which they got for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
You saw some flashes in that. So those are all like positive that you see. But you obviously don't have the ceiling on the team when Dame gets hurt. And you probably could have gone lower because Dame is probably out all. Doc Rivers seemed to think he would come back at the end of next season. But again, as we talked about, when you're 36 and you blow an Achilles, the likelihood you return to the player you were is small. So it's just disappointing when you have a top 2 player and you're out in the first round, even though the team did go to the finals and you had a couple of games you probably should have won. It ended in another disappointment when you have that player on your team.
Yeah. So me and Clint do our grades differently. Just so if you're listening, his average is C, mine is a B. Maybe next year when we do this, if we do this, we'll do maybe like a grade scale, like 1 through 10 or something like that. Then it'll probably be more equal. But I gave them an A minus for winning the in-season tournament and the banner that they were able to raise because, no, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. Nobody cares. When you were wearing the shirt yesterday with the in season, I was like, "Oh yeah, that happened." Like nobody remembers. Yeah. Nobody remembers.
They're the only champs of the league so far.
That's right. That's right. A B. I gave him a B, just like an average grade. Mainly because a couple things. AJ Green looked good, right? That's a positive. He's a young player, so you have that going for you. The Gary Trent Jr. signing worked out well. It was a little hit or miss at the beginning, but it kind of got going, especially it's the playoffs. He was like your second best player. Kevin Porter Jr., great pickup. I thought like for Kevin Porter Jr., like great pickup. I know he's an okay player. He's up and down, but you're not paying him a ton. He has a player option this offseason. We'll see what he does with that. But you're right with the cons. Lillard's injury is the big one. Huge con for them there. And then the Kuzma trade did not work out for them. So that was another con that just like you gave up Middleton, you got Kuzma, and he was like a net negative. Like you might as well not have had either him or Middleton playing almost at that point. Right. So, yeah, just a rough season. You're right about the coaching as well. Hit or miss, up or down, things that they don't do, like the pick and roll a lot, is just baffling to me as well. So, um, I'm with you. Average grade, maybe a little below average season.
Yeah, and you even see it like with Kyle Kuzma. He had a couple games you're like, oh, that's why they did it. His defense, he has
Hmm.
some versatility, but
Hmm.
you just you never played him in a position to succeed. Like he's not a three. He's
Right,
pretty much a four.
right.
And you got to get as many minutes with him at the four and Giannis at the five. Even with Torian Prince, we're rolling him out there as a two guard. Bro's not a two guard. He's
Hmm.
old. He's a four. Um, so it just that compounded, Doc Rivers kind of compounded it by doing those things. And it took until game five against the Pacers to roll out the starting lineup that was
Should,
their best rated. You should have just started with that,
yeah.
especially against the Pacers. And then it gives you more flexibility. But again, it just it didn't. None of the things seemed to really work.
Yeah, yeah, and again, I gave them a B partly because of the Pacers making it to the finals, right? So you lost to the best team in the East, hypothetically, and you played them probably better than the Cavs, right? I'm just saying, so the Bucks went from like, oh man, the sky's falling, maybe we have to trade Giannis, to being like, okay, well maybe we're not too far if we can just make a couple moves. Anything else on the Bucks season? You want to
No,
spend
I don't
like
think.
10 minutes on the play-in?
I mean, it just you saw that, and Doc Rivers commented in his podcast with Bill Simmons, like the physicality the Bucks were capable of against certain teams showed, and that's what gave you hope because I believe Dame didn't play in that game, and they took it to the Thunder, but you didn't see that enough, and I think a lot of that comes down to coaching and just getting the guys in the right position. And as the season went along, that didn't happen, and the consequence of that is what you ended up with in some of those Pacers games.
Yeah, yeah, correct. Yep. Okay, you ready to go into their off season?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do it. Okay, so for their off season, they have a lot of free agents, a couple player options with Connaughton, Porter, and Portis. Do you think do they all three pick them up, or do you think, what are you hearing as far as a Bucks fan goes with those three? Just real
Uh,
quick.
Kevin Porter, it sounds like he's going to decline his. Doesn't mean he won't be back, but at least you get an option to go somewhere if you want. Pat Connaughton is definitely picking up his $9.4 million player option. And Bobby Portis, I've seen, sounds like he's going to be back, but I think he wants an extension on
Okay.
top of that.
Okay, sounds riveting for you. And then Prince, Trent Green, Gary Trent Jr., also, and Brooke Lopez are also free agents. So we'll see what happens there. They have one tradable first, which is either the 2031 or the 2032. They are below the first apron right now, so they have a little bit of cap room to deal with, and well, if Pat Connaughton picks up his player option and Portis, I think that might change, right? So we'll see what happens. Okay, what do you want to see them to do? What direction do you want to see them go this off season?
Well, I think we've at this point pretty much solved Giannis is an asking out as of this recording.
Right.
But it was funny to see all the, and even I think ESPN today had the 5 trades the Bucks should make for Giannis, which is irritating, even though he's kind of made it pretty clear, at least going into the season, he's going to be here. So that gives you clarity, and as long as you have him, you have a chance in the East. The rest of the team, it sounds like they're going to try to be aggressive with that 2031 or 2032 swap. Um, I'm hesitant on that. I think, bringing back Gary Trent would be good. Kevin Porter Jr. I don't want to pay him much, but if he wants to come back, sure. I think Ryan Rollins showed some improvement too to be able to play him. And then Brook Lopez is kind of like a linchpin, I think, because they've really banked their team on Brook Lopez being like that center, that spacing center. And obviously he's 36, going to be 37. You can see a little bit of the tailing off. And if he's going to, hopefully if he stayed, his number would be much lower. But like in that Pacers series, he becomes in a lot of these matchups next to unplayable.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to have someone, if he's making $20 million, be unplayable in a series like that. So I think it sounds like that's what they sold Giannis on. I think you take a year, you bring the band back. Maybe you could poach someone like Schroeder. Maybe you can get some of these minimum guys. So you can be like, hey, come on over. You're going to get to play and run it back. And then you go into Dame's last year. You could move that. You would have more room as the cap goes up. You would have an extra first to trade at that moment. That's probably the approach I would take. But it sounds like they're trying to be aggressive with that 2031. But hopefully they don't do something too stupid.
Yeah, right. So yeah, the Giannis thing, like you said, cooled down. So that's well, let's just take that off the table for now. I think I'm with you that I would just bring back at the right price Trent Jr. and Porter Jr. I think Porter Jr. showed flashes last year. I think this is the first year he's been back in the NBA since he wasn't in the NBA. So it'd be interesting to see, okay, now whole off season. He now has a defined role. He's probably going to have to be your starting guard. Uh, I just think that maybe there's something there. When he was in Houston, he had big moments. So it's just like, let's see what there for the right price. I'm all for that. And like you said, maybe just seeing what you have. And then maybe like what they could do is just wait till the trade deadline before they make any drastic moves. And then you'll know kind of where you're at. I Lopez, you can bring him back, but I'm almost on the like my personal thing is like I just play Giannis at center at this point and let Brook go. I mean, at the right price, if he's only like 3 million or whatever he is, veteran minimum, that's fine. But for the most part, it's like he can't guard. His knees are shot. Like, you could tell side to side movement is gone. He does provide spacing though. That's the nice part with him and Giannis on the court, right? Because Giannis can't shoot threes. I didn't know this, but if you had to guess how many threes did Giannis attempt per game this year?
It did end up being less than one.
Yeah, it was point 0.9. It's like
Yeah.
that's crazy. Which is fine because he's never been efficient at it, but then like, it's good to have Lopez out there for the spacing, but the defense is just not there. So it might be, like you said, more matchup thing. So yeah, I think that would be the proper approach. And, just waiting one more year and seeing how Lillard's injury goes and in his recovery, and maybe he comes back and he's a little better than we expect. Or like you said, you can trade him then.
Yeah, and I think if there's a team that really wants Brook Lopez, and there's not a lot of cap room, and I doubt Brook Lopez is going to go to a bad team, right? He's only
Right.
got a few years left. Probably wants to go somewhere to compete. Because you're under the first apron, you can always sign and trade.
Mm.
That caps you at it, which is fine. Like I don't think the Bucks want to be. They're obviously not going to be a second apron team this year. They need to get out for a year anyhow. So I think that would be an option. Maybe even if you just sign and trade him and get a couple second round picks, like they have very few picks. So any you can get, whether you're going to use or you're going to throw those second round picks in trades going forward, if Giannis is going to continue with the team, fine. I've always thought Giannis eventually should be center. I still don't think he wants to do it except in moments. But if Bobby Portis is going to stay, you could just Bobby Portis be the de facto center and let Giannis move around. You're not going to have a great defensive team with that, but you didn't have one last year with Brook Lopez playing a lot either. So at least Portis, would give you that spacing, that energy. But I think that's the approach they should stick to. I'm fine keeping Kuzma. Like it's almost sunk cost at this point. Like I don't know what you're going to get from him. Like I mean, you could probably I've seen things where you trade him to Utah and the pick, and you get like Sexton and John Collins, and you're like, I don't know, that doesn't do a whole lot for me. Um, was that your?
Well, just continue. Just continue. Why are you
But
doing this
like
to me?
you see things like that, and you're like, all right, that's fine, but like, what does that do for me? Like, I think the 31 pick, um, I would say for something more valuable. But if you're going to keep Kuzma, just bring him off the bench, make him the 4 off the bench, and then when you put Giannis at the 5, keep him in there. Maybe you can kind of turn him around a little by giving him more of a role opposed to just throwing him all over the court. And then when he sucks, acting shocked.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And like with the center spot, you could like that like we talked about with the Pacers, like they have Thomas Bryant and Bradley. You could just grab one of those guys. Both of them guys can shoot, and you start them. But as the game goes on, you figure out whether they need to be on the court or not. When you close, Giannis is your center. You bring hopefully in like Kuzma or Portis, and they can kind of spread the court and finish. Yeah, so I'm with you on trying to be a little bit more reserved at trading that pick if you can at all possible. Especially this year. So
Yeah. And even center wise, like, what if you can bring in Al Horford? Like, I know he's old also. He gives you a little more versatility. I mean, you
yeah,
want to talk about being old, but hey, whatever, the Celtics probably can't keep him. Maybe he just wants to stay and he'll sign with the Celtics for a minimum. But you can dig out guys like that for depth that you don't have to play a ton.
hmm
That still allows you to be semi versatile.
yeah, correct. Okay, anything else on their off season?
No, just a win that Giannis sustained.
Yes,
Leaves us
huge
with
win.
yeah, year 10 of Giannis is going to be gone, and he's not gone. So take
Yeah,
that.
that's fair. Okay, let's do our long shot. What's your long shot for the Bucks?
It was hard to come up with one because I don't think you want to move the 2031 this year. The one I sounds like it might have been yours that I saw was Kuzma and that pick for Colin Sexton and John Collins, and that was a meh from me.
hmm
Um, but otherwise, I think you just run it back. I
Yeah,
couldn't come up with something too creative that got me excited.
yeah. So when we talked about Portland, I brought up the Lillard for Grant and Thibault and with the 2031, right? It can be semi protected. Like you don't have to give them an outright, but like maybe top 5, top 10 protected. Um, there's benefits for both teams in that. The one that I put down was actually Lillard and your 2031 for Collins and Sexton. Collins and Sexton are only have one more year. This next year is their last year on their contract. So it would be getting off the money. Like you try them out for a year. If it doesn't work out, that's okay. You don't have to pay them after this year. That's the thing. And then you don't have to pay Lillard either. So that was more of the trade that I had for them. But if it worked out, you do add depth. Collins had a really good year this year. Sexton's a good off the bench type of scorer. Maybe he might have to take more of a starter's role, but he's efficient enough to be like a 6 man. So that's what I had as far as a long shot, getting off of Lillard's contract, getting 2 expirings, and hopefully that depth would work out for them. That's what I thought.
Yeah. You have Lillard in that case. You could probably do Lillard. We mentioned it in the Sixers for Paul George if the Sixers are just looking, or you could even do uh, God be with us like Lillard for Bradley Beal and the Suns throwing one of
Oh
those matches.
no.
Like I saw that one and I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm ready for that. But I think those are um, what you're looking at, which I don't think the Sexton one, sure, if it's Lillard and you keep one or both of them if you really like going forward. Um, but it's tough in this spot without with that extra player option still available that he's obviously going to pick up at this point.
Right. The thing with the only my point is like the only way I'd get off of that 30-31, I mean 20-31 pick is if I can unload Lillard. Because then you're not technically like wasting a season with Giannis. You're still trying to win. Where if you don't do anything with the pick, that's fine. I wouldn't use it to get rid of Kuzma. I think that's silly because he's like 20 million a year, right? So I know I think he got 2 more years too, right? This year next. Okay. So he might his expiring any expiring contract becomes valuable to teams if they're trying to get off of big money. But yeah, the only way I get rid of that pick is if I can unload Lillard to add something that can help me compete this year. That's the only way I get off of that 30-31 pick. So,
And part of me thinks Giannis coming back is for Dame since he went down trying to play through injury. I don't know that to be true, but it feels like Dame is like I can come back in March and let's see what we can do. But I think you're right. I don't want to give up that pick unless you're either unloading that contract or you're you're bringing back something long term,
right.
something younger, because that pick is obviously going to be extremely valuable. Or you do the Suns route and you trade that into a bunch of other picks that you could throw into that. But I think unlike the Suns, if the Bucks are going to do that, you got to have deals lined up that are going to work if you're going to dump the 2031 for a couple picks in these middle years coming up.
Sure. Yeah. No, that's true. I don't hate, I'll be honest with you, if you got Bradley Beal and a pick for Lillard, I wouldn't hate it. Because Bradley Beal, I agree, like he's not like a winning player necessarily, but he's also miscast in over in Phoenix. So I think he would be a little bit better for the Bucks than he would be for Phoenix, and you would get an additional pick, which you need picks. If Bill would be up for that, and you can get off of Lillard's contract, and you have both of them for 2 years anyway, right? So it's like, well, so instead of paying injured Lillard, who's 36, would get a little younger player who we have to pay anyway and a pick. I don't hate it. I'm just saying I don't hate it for the Bucks. I'm not saying it's the best move. If you don't have to give up the 2031 and you add another pick, I don't hate it for the Bucks. Throwing that out there.
It's just
I,
when you start digging into some of these, you just really go, oh, ooh, I just got queasy.
Yeah, it's like I would love to see you have to root for Bradley Beal. Part of me that'd be great because it's like so there's players that like Luke doesn't like as a Paul George fan, like Devin Booker. I'm like it would be so hilarious if the Sixers do like Durant for Paul George or Beal for Paul George and you have to root for Devin Booker. I would love to see you have to do that. It's one of it's I don't know, dark part of me, I guess, but
You talk yourself into it, and then you watch it, and you're like, wish I want this guy to succeed, but it's so painful to watch. Same with like I don't hate Paul George, but like that contract, and if you dumped Lillard to get Paul George, and you're like, man, I've done nothing but make fun of this dude in the playoffs, and now I have to be like, please make a shot in the playoffs for me.
yeah, yeah. No, exactly, exactly. You have to talk yourself into it. But man, I don't know if you could get another pick, it wouldn't be the worst. I'm just saying. Um, because then you
And
could
I think,
flip those picks
yeah,
and get maybe another player that can help you win right away or depth that can help you win.
yeah, that's part of how you have to think of that. It's kind of like the cold business side of this is do you, on theory, want Bradley Beal and have to take that no trade clause, which is basically condemning you for the rest of that contract? But with a rising cap and the extra pick, can you then springboard that into a third player? But the
But
hard thing with Bradley Beal is he didn't seem like he wanted to play a role besides besides the starring role. And I think if you're the Bucks and you're going to have Giannis and Bradley Beal and bring in a third, Beal's obviously then going to be your third. And I don't know if he's on board with that.
yeah, that's fair. It's just it would be like you're paying Lillard for the next 2 years anyway. Get a pick in Bradley Beal, you're gonna have to pay him anyway, right, for the next 2 years. So I don't know. Okay, and that,
Yay.
yeah, yeah. Anyway, there's some hope for you, right? All those players, Sexton, Collins, Paul George, those are some long shots. Okay, man, anything else on the Bucks?
Nope. Just enjoy Giannis while you have it, and hopefully it's a couple more years. The next year I can talk myself into no, we got to figure it out.
Yeah, the Achilles is back. Lillard's gonna be okay. Yeah, exactly.
Guys,
Okay.
we're gonna have that cap room. We're gonna be able to move Lillard after this year. It's all gonna be fine.
It's everything. Okay. Well, thanks a lot for joining me, Clint. Thanks everybody for listening. If you haven't yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel, like our video, comment down below what you think the Bucks should do. We didn't talk about any Giannis trades. I did have like a couple of them for you, but let's just maybe put that back in the back burner for maybe a time when it's more pressing, maybe trade deadline time or something like that. Okay. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed, and we'll talk to you all real soon. Thanks so much for watching this clip of the Box Score Sports Podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to our channel. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter or X. And we'll talk to you guys real soon. See ya.